All right, so we have with us some, I was telling you last week, some guys from Epic Games. We actually, Darren and I play tennis somewhat together. And you're Jason, correct? Mm-hmm. So Jason and Darren, they're here to talk to you about the video game industry and kind of like what their jobs look like day to day. Okay? So make sure you're listening, and if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you want it throughout or at the end?
Oh, throughout.
Okay, so if you have any questions, raise your hand and ask. But make sure you're listening. If they someone already asked it, don't ask it again. Okay? All right.
All right, hey everybody, I'm Jason. I am known as JB at the office because at my previous job there were 7 Jasons and no one actually was able to claim the title. So I've been in the industry, oh goodness, this is gonna make me feel really old, about 17 years. Since about 98, I went to a tech high school, then I went to a college for computer engineering, and then broke into the industry by going out to work for Intel, which is the microchip company, and they had a developer relations group that would go and evangelize their new hardware to game developers. So that's how I broke in, because I made some friends with the developers I worked with, and then I got recruited to a company called Firaxis and then Big Huge Games, worked on some real-time strategy games that probably no one in this room has heard of, which just makes me sad. And then I went down to work for Epic, I guess about 6 years ago, and have worked on mobile titles and the engine and optimizations and Gears of War and some of our new titles. So I've worked on a bunch of different games in a bunch of different capacities, working on rendering and input and all the programming stuff. By the way, I'm a programmer. Probably should have started with that. But I have hung out with a lot of designers and artists, so I probably can answer a few questions with regard to that. My one most clutch piece of advice is if you have any passion to attempt to be in the computer game industry is to make something. Like the best thing you can do for yourself is to, even if it's awful, even if the graphics are terrible, I know I'm a programmer, I have no artistic skill whatsoever. I do what's called programmer art, which is everyone acknowledges is the worst art that can ever be created. Even if you're just making programmer art or doing ones and zeros or doing something based on text, that is the way that you build the experience to be able to have people recognize your work. And every time I get a resume in, I go, okay, well, what have you done? I'm really passionate. Okay, well, how passionate are you? No, I have lots of ideas. Okay, well, that's cool. What have you done with your ideas? Well, I made this. As soon as somebody can say I made this, I go, oh, okay, you had some follow through. You were, where is it, proactive. You were super proactive, and that gets people infinitely further than just sort of putting a little resume together with some words on it. That's my intro.
I'm Darren. I'm actually a mathematician, so I'm not a game designer either. I've been working at Epic for 2.5, going on 3 years. I work in the analytics department. So what we do is we model behavior. So everything you do in any game you play is tracked. There's somebody like me on the other side who is watching everything you do. And that's true for anything you do online. Just so you know, you're aware, anything you do online is tracked, and there's someone like me that's watching the data. And we look for anything that can cause you problems. Our main goal at Epic is we want you to have fun. We want you to have a good experience. So our main focus in analytics is trying to understand when you're not having a good experience. Are you getting mad and quitting? Are you getting bored? Anything that causes you to leave our game, we want to get rid of, effectively. Analytics also, so we start at the beginning of the process. We help with the game balance. So when we have a game come out, we help with the balancing of characters. You know, are they powered equally to all the other characters? Does everything feel right? We help with level design and understanding where like choke points in a level could be. We help with matchmaking, so create ELOs of skill levels. So when you play against other people, you play with people on your same level. You're not feeling like you're always against people who are crushing you or you're crushing everybody else. We do marketing analytics, so we look at people who come to our website, how many actually sign up for things, how many actually get the game, how many play the game, how long do they play. Do people from different places play in different patterns? People from Asia a lot of times play games a lot differently than people here, and so we have to understand how it's different so we can change our game for different markets. We do financial analytics, so any ways that we make money, you know, what causes people to spend money on our games, things like that. Do any of you guys play games? All of you? Nice. Pretty much. That's good. What games do you play?
Minecraft.
I had a hunch that was going to be the first answer.
16.
What do you like about them?
I also play Destiny.
It's a good game. Is there something that, what keeps you playing? Why do you play them?
You can do lots of stuff. Like
It's
Minecraft.
infinite. It's infinite. You can do lots of things.
So you like having possibilities. So that's something to think about. When you're playing games and when you're making your game, think about the games you play and think about what it is that you're enjoying. The reality is making games is kind of an art, and designers see themselves as artists most of the time. So you have to think about, one, what you want to portray to the user, and also how they are going to interact with your game. Here's the thing, they are never going to interact with it the way you think they are. So you have to think of all the possibilities of ways that they can play your game and try to make them all as smooth as possible. And then my job on the back end is to make sure that they play, to understand how they're playing the game, so I can tell you when they're not playing it like you planned.
So one of the things that, we have a new game that's going to be coming out in the not so distant future, and one of the things we want to make sure is that people don't come in, hit some sort of wall and get frustrated and go, that's it, shelf moment, I'm done with your game. The worst thing that could possibly happen. We want to sell a promise that there is hours and hours of entertainment. We're in an entertainment industry, so we have to give people a reason to come back. And the best reason, this is like the first nugget of wisdom I ever got in the industry, was games are about making interesting decisions, right? So, and I've seen some nuance on that, where it was games are about making interesting, meaningful decisions. So if you have to go and, oh, my game is to click this 100 times, that is not a meaningful decision. You're just going through a robotic motion of like click, click, click. Did I win yet? Ugh, I hate my life. And instead, you want the person to be like, okay, well, if I make this choice, then I get that thing. But if I make this choice, I get that thing. Okay, how do I want to play today? And okay, if Darren and I are playing a game together and he takes this strategy, I could do this complementary strategy. And when you're playing Minecraft, you have as many choices as you want. Like you basically can build anything you want, and do any activity you want. So the meaning of having people make meaningful decisions is really paramount. And there's a couple other, we have what's the old title?
Market
Research analyst or something?
Yeah.
So we have this guy who's sort of, he is a games industry scholar. He's just a really smart guy who has a lot of information about why people come in, when they hit a wall, and like I guess he worked on the Batman series, all the Arkham Knight series that are really, really popular. And he's like, hey, we saw this thing where people got to this level, and then if you made it to this level, you dropped. 90% of our population after this level dropped. So that's the kind of thing that Darren's data is going to tell us. You drop, you're like shelf moment. So he says, I forget exactly. There's a, you'll know. There's an acronym or something for this. It's basically need satisfaction for the player. You need to have mastery, relatedness, and autonomy. So mastery is, as you play the game, you need to figure out, oh, I played as Batman and feel kind of clumsy. I'm getting hit a lot, and that doesn't feel very Batman-like. And then after about an hour, you're like, oh no, coming at me, son? They strike you, you counter, you're not getting hit anymore. And by the end, you're making these combinations that are like 40 moves long, and you feel like Batman. That is the mastery progression. With relatedness, you want to feel that your decisions have impact on the game. So you're doing something, and it causes, the worst thing you could do is just like, oh, they're bad guys, I'm shooting them, and they just keep coming. There's this little bad guy generator, and I'm not making any interesting choices. So you want to make things that are related not only to you, you want the game to respect the decisions that you've made, but you want those to impact other people. And then autonomy. You want freedom to be able to play your way, and that was actually one of Dave's points this morning that he sent in the email, was if your game has only one solution, probably not giving the user interesting choices to make. You could do this, as an example. You could, in a real-time strategy game, you could turtle up and just go for an economy, just get all the resources and build this huge base, and at the very end, you launch out your all-out assault and you go on the offensive. Or you can say, all right, well, they're probably going to do that, and I'm going to bring a couple little troops and mess up their supply lines. And so I'm going to be much more offensive. It's going to slow my economy down, but I'm going to go and take the attack to them early. And those are the sort of autonomous choices that you want to provide to your user. So at Epic, we also do a lot of user experience testing, where, again, as I said before, make a game. Next thing you do is put it in front of somebody and be like, hey, play it. And they go, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. This is dumb. And I clicked this thing and it didn't work, and ugh. And you're like, oh, I guess my widget that said, click wasn't clear enough because I used gray text on a gray background. Okay, mental note, they're not seeing the instructions that I'm giving them. So the best thing you can do is put your creation in front of somebody and get their feedback. And the hardest thing to do in that, this is another reason I'm not an artist, because my art, A, is terrible, which I said before, is the subjectivity. Is you have to have a really thick skin. You have to be like, here's what I made. I think it's awesome. Somebody goes, I don't get it. You're like, no, it's really great. I don't get it. And you have to be accepting of that feedback, because the first attempt, the second attempt, the third attempt, probably not going to be it. About the 10th time, it's going to be pretty close. And with programming, I always say, like, the first implementation's terrible. Second one, probably not so bad. And the third one's going to be really good. So if you end up losing your work a lot, third implementation is going to be really solid.
Then, so we had a designer coming with us, and he unfortunately got sick.
Yeah.
But his other piece of advice that he wanted to bring up was fail fast. That's something we talk about at Epic a lot. The goal is, once you've learned something that's not going to work, people aren't going to like your game. Something isn't happening, quit. Stop and change. You have to change it. You have to realize it fast, and you have to change fast. Because if you keep working on it, the reality is, if the base isn't good, it's probably not going to get better. So, fail fast. We do that a lot. We make a ton of games at Epic that no one will ever see, because it turns out it was a good idea, but when you actually implement it, it just wasn't fun. And we trash it and start over.
Yeah, there are other studios that do. It depends on your methodology, but some studios make these design docs, and they are these monolithic Bible-like design docs where they say, this game is about adventurers that go from this area, and here's the map, and here's all the treasure, and programmers just go in and they go, okay, I'm looking at the doc, and it says to do this, and so I did it, and this isn't fun, this is really lame, I don't want to work on this game anymore. And that's
Miss Bath?
Yes.
Miss Bath?
Yes.
But that goes into, there's a name for what Darren was referring to, it's just iterative design. So be happy to fail fast, like Splunky said. Yeah. And the other nugget that I've gotten semi-recently, probably a couple years ago, was in games like real-time strategy games, there are resources that you have to spend in Minecraft, right? You have a certain amount of resources, and you go and harvest some stuff, and you get some more, and then you can do things with those resources. Yes, those are some of the resources, but the user's attention is another resource. So if you're playing a real-time strategy game, and you have an army that's like spread out all over this map, you only can spend so much of the user's attention dealing with so many troops at a time before they can become overwhelmed, and the game is kind of untenable. So keeping the user engaged, again, making meaningful decisions, and using their time and their patience as a resource and being respectful of the user is a really important thing, because without users, I mean, we're in the games industry, it's a business. Yes, we want to make money, but we're doing something that we're super passionate about. We probably do as a hobby project anyway. So in that regard, we have to be aware that as soon as users put down your game, there is zero chance that they are spending money on your game. There's a game called League of Legends. Has anyone played League of Legends? Good choice. Probably the #1 game in the world right now. It's free to play, and the new trend in the industry is, rather than putting a boxed product like Gears of War, an Xbox game that you sell for $60, in that regard, the game developers are saying, no, I know you haven't played our game yet. This is worth $60. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. And they put their $60 down, and they have to trust the game developer to give them value back. The new trend is, hey, our game's free. Come play it. You're going to love it. You're going to stay for a long time. We are trusting you, the consumers, that we're giving you value, and you're going to repay us with actual, like, you are going to respect and value what we have in a monetary way. So if you like the experience, like, there's a game I play right now, which I have gotten so many hours of entertainment, I actually feel good as a consumer. I go, you know what, you give me so much entertainment, I want to support what you're doing. I want to support your company, I want to support what you're doing, because you're going to give me even more value back. So the new trend, again, is free to play, League of Legends being a great example. They let everyone come in. They do put some constraints on the problem. They have like hundreds and hundreds of heroes, and they only let the public